Hi there, my name is Adele and I'm the founder of Naked.Recovery. So in this video, I want to talk about people who initiate divorce and the real guilt and dilemma that they go through. Sometimes we're in a position where we initiate divorce and then we immediately regret what has happened and what is that all about. So if you are feeling guilty after initiating your divorce, I want to talk a little bit about this whole problem and what you can actually do about it. So first things first, initiating a divorce is basically, it's putting the plug on a fairy tale. Most marriages actually start with that whole fairy tale component. It's this dream. And when you are pulling the plug on something, you're killing the dream. That takes something to do that. It really takes thought, courage, a leap. It takes strength to kind of follow through on it. And what I firstly recommend is if you're in that process where you're in that dilemma, think very carefully before you pull that plug. Make sure that you've done everything you can to save this marriage and that you feel really clear that this is something that has to be done. Why? Because it will really help you to make peace with the choice that you've made. A lot of people who are in dilemma, they didn't maybe work as hard as they could have on saving the marriage. Maybe they didn't do everything that they could to actually, secure the future of that relationship. And they got stuck in hopelessness. And this was basically, a cry for help. If you're in that boat where you're not really serious about it and you're a little bit toing and froing, then this is not the time to be initiating divorce. It's the time to be actually working on seeing, is there anything we can finally do to save this? And if so, come and do the Spark program and we actually focus on saving marriages through that. But if you're in that position where you're really clear this has to end, let's take a look at a little bit of the kind of regrets around that. So what happens with a lot of clients when they initiate divorce and they immediately regret? Sometimes they're stuck back in nostalgia, all right? So they move suddenly out of the reality of the relationship and they reverse back to, but the times were so good and we were so happy at this point and I'm such a terrible person having done this. So that's the next part. We're either in nostalgia or we're judging ourselves for being the terrible person that is initiating this. And, it's important if you're in that camp where you're pulled back into nostalgia and you're pulled back into, I'm a terrible person for doing this. You need to keep two lists and you need to keep them in a position where you can see them often. The one list are all the reasons why you left. What is actually wrong? What is the problem? Where does this relationship dishonor you? Where did it become toxic? Where are you unhappy, miserable, whatever it is? You got to keep that list of the reality because that jolts you out of the nostalgic memory lane trip that you go on when you're starting to beat yourself up. The next part is to look at all the things that you did to save the marriage. These two lists work in collaboration with each other. So this is the one of why I left. And this is the one of all the things I did to save it. These two help you to find some peace when you're going down memory lane. The next thing is to get that you need to make peace with feeling like a bad person. It takes courage and it takes strength to initiate and follow through on a divorce because you are the one that is killing the fairy tale or the dream. You will encounter resistance along the journey. You will encounter well-meaning friends who think, well, why did it end? You guys were such a lovely couple. Oh, what are we going to do? We were all kind of together doing these trips. And what will we do on our lake holiday when you're not there? And what about our ski trip now? And, that's so sad. We can't invite you to this party because we have 12 seats and then we'll have 11 and this really doesn't work. You'll encounter some really strange conversations from people. You'll encounter people who are a little bit traumatized by the fact that you're no longer married. The reality is that in our social circles, there are boxes that people have allocated for their social circle. You're in the box called the married box. You jumping out of that box disrupts their box. Now my life doesn't make sense. What am I supposed to do with my social situation now that you're no longer there? It's disturbing for that person. And they are in an upset with this change that is encountered in you ending this relationship. So you're going to find yourself needing to console this person, needing to explain, you needing to be in social encounters and needing to almost run through that over and over again. So 2 things I would say about that. 1, definitely accept you're going to feel like a bad person. And if you're in that moment where you're like, I just can't deal with social situations at this point, it's probably the time for some introversion and just avoiding all of that until you feel a bit more resolved and processed in your healing journey. The second thing I would say is that you need to give these people a weirdness pass. Nobody actually gets given a manual for how to console their friend and support their friend or family properly through the trauma of divorce. There is so much weird stuff that people say in these situations. Oh, there's lots of fish in the sea, or oh, don't worry, we'll find you another one really quick. Or I never liked him anyway, or, oh, that's so devastating. What will we do if there's only 11 places at the table? So you hear all kinds of really inappropriate and weird stuff. But it's because those people, your divorce ruptures their fabric. It ruptures their cohesiveness. And it makes them remember that relationships are fragile. It makes them question their own relationship. It's a really challenging trauma for people to be around. And they struggle with the shame of it. They struggle with the failure of it. They struggle with the stigma of it. Just give them a weirdness pass. They don't actually. It's kind of like you're just going to think in your head, wow, I can't believe you just said that. In my mind, here's your weirdness pass. And just get some real support for the trauma that you're experiencing and dealing with. So if you're feeling guilty, remember the 2 lists that you need to keep. Remember it's probably a time for introversion. Probably don't really want to socialize that much. And if you do socialize, that little tip of giving people a weirdness pass is really helpful. If you're really struggling, it helps when you've processed your divorce. So come and do the Naked Divorce Emotional Freedom Program. That'll help you really recover and get better after what has happened and integrate all those learnings and make peace with the choice that you've made. So I hope that's of help. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact us on the website.